Good evening, Bahamas. You're tuned into NB12, broadcasting from Cable 12 Studios on Robinson Road. Coming up tonight in news, the Minister of National Security aiming to make sure the murder count rate drops. Police returning to school campuses. The Prime Minister reveals his senator picks. More claims of victimization by the new PLP government. Plus, Loretta Butler-Turner vying for deputy leadership of the FNM. We've got those stories and so much more. I'm Paige McCartney, and NB12 starts right now. Welcome once again to NB12. After a record 127 murders last year and the pace of killings up significantly for the year so far, the new Minister of National Security setting a bold benchmark for crime this year. Today, he told NB12 that he's determined to ensure that law enforcement will slow the pace of killings by the end of 2012. Here's Royston Jones with more.
The murder count so far for the year stands at 55, outpacing last year's record up to this period by around 15%. With this in mind, the Christie administration has set out a challenging feat that some may say is not feasible.
It must be reduced. It must be reduced this year. We are setting targets for ourselves, and we are seeking to devise the policies and the operations that will help us to hit those targets. But to be realistic, it's necessary. We cannot afford to be losing our young men like this. What will the country come to? Where will we be in 10 years' time? If we don't get control of it, we must get control over it, and I've told them we must get control over it now.
When asked specifically how a reduced murder count for this year would be achieved, the minister says considering it's his fourth day on the job, he has to listen, learn, and share. He says the series of meetings conducted over the past week with the heads of the police force, defense force, customs, immigration, and the prison is part of a comprehensive initiative to engage all relevant government agencies in the fight against crime. Former Commodore of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force and former Ambassador Clifford Butch Scavella says the aim here is to focus efforts in gathering national intelligence, both local and internationally, on crime in general, illegal immigration, drugs, and illegal firearms as directed by the Prime Minister.
If your efforts were not producing the results that you wanted initially, then we've got to try and do things differently. And the government, in its effort to impact crime, simply wants to be able to try some different initiatives. And we'll have to see what the result will be at the end of the day.
However, Dr. Nottage says there is another equally important body to engage in achieving a lower murder count for 2012.
And this means engaging not only these gentlemen who you see me with today, but engaging the public. You know, people don't like you to say that, but if the public doesn't cooperate with us, we will not be successful. And so the law enforcement agencies, they have their job, but we have our job too. We have to communicate properly with the public. We have to persuade them that it's part of their duty to let us know what's going on in their communities. Good gracious, all of these young men who are involved in crime live in homes with other people who know what they are doing. They need to tell us. And so, you know, I don't want to make it look easy. It's not going to be easy. And setting the target is easy. Achieving it is a different thing. But if we don't set it, we certainly won't achieve it.
Dr. Nottage says programs like Urban Renewal and Project Safe Bahamas have worked under the past Christie administration despite criticisms, and they are currently being organized and can be expected to be launched within the next 2 weeks. One of the key campaign messages by the Progressive Liberal Party was that the previous administration failed to keep Bahamians safe. Many people are watching to see what impact those various initiatives promised by the new government will have. Reporting for NB12, I'm Royston Jones.
Well, a woman who was violently attacked last week Friday has died in hospital, adding to the country's murder count. Police are now investigating the circumstances surrounding the death of the 27-year-old Kemp Road resident. It was at around 3 in the afternoon, May 11th, when the woman was taken to hospital to be treated for stab wounds. Police say a 51-year-old Lion Road man is assisting with investigations. And expect police officers to return to public school campuses by September. They were pulled from school grounds by the Ingram administration in 2007 and sparking a heated debate over whether officers belonged in schools or on the streets. Well, the National Security Minister revealed today that the PLP government is relaunching its school policing program in an effort to renew a robust policing presence in schools. Vonique Toot reports.
5 years after the Free National Movement government dismantled the school policing program, it will be relaunched in public schools. Minister of National Security Dr. Bernard Nottage told NB12 today that a different version of the program should be up and running in September when the new school year begins. The original school policing program was started under the previous Christie administration and involved stationing officers on public school campuses. However, the F&M government pulled officers out of schools shortly after coming to office in 2007, arguing that they are not babysitters. Police liaison officers were eventually assigned to junior and senior high schools, but were not required to physically stay on campuses. Here's what will happen now that the PLP is in power.
I think we're in the last term now, so obviously you wouldn't see it in a full-fledged way until the new school year. And it may not even be identical to what it was the last time, but it will be appropriate for the needs. The Minister of Education and myself are to meet. We then to meet with the experts, the security experts and the police, and we will work it out, and then we will tell you first.
School violence has been a major concern in some public schools on New Providence in recent years. However, education officials reported a decrease in violent incidents last year. Dr. Nottage acknowledged that fact, but said challenges still exist.
There are a lot of things happening that we're not aware of. And so we can't be in our schools and in our communities, but in our schools. And so we ought not to be lulled into a sense of false security. But you are right, the real violent incidents have been reduced in recent times. But that does not obviate the need for a level. And I think we've gotten sufficient experience from what has happened before to know the kind of officer to put there, etc., because that makes a huge difference. Because, you know, in school you have a lot of young people who have a lot of energy and a lot of desires which we need to be aware of if we're going to have a successful program.
So what kind of officers does the Ministry of National Security plan to place in schools this time around?
Mature, experienced, honest, because, no because, just leave it at that.
It's unclear how many officers will be assigned to each public school. The National Security Minister says details like that one will be worked out before the program's launch. Reporting for NV12, I'm Vonique Toot.